Okay, so to get started with this, we need a few supplies. We do need some black cardstock. We're going to need a Versamark and some white ink. I'm using white StazOn. I like this a lot. So we have our inks. We need some stamps, and I'm going to use the Thank You from the Bottom of My Heart stamp from the stamp set called From My Heart. I liked it because it was all swirly and had some, wonderful detail. And then from Daydream Medallions, we're going to use the largest stamp here, which has these beautiful swirls as well. And I think the two of them look really nice together. Let's get started. We're going to center this onto our paper. And I love Stampin' Up's grid paper because it has these wonderful grid lines that you can use, and plus a centering ruler. So this ruler in the middle of the paper is at 0. And I know this is a 4-inch piece of paper, so I can set the two edges at 2 on each side. As long as I'm lined up on all my edges, I know I'm straight. Then I can add this, my guide. There we go. And put my Stamp-A-Majig right here. I'll remove that. Ink up my stamp. I know I moved that, so let me move this. Let me try this again. Ink up before. That's the lesson we're learning. Okay. So there we go. Down and press and then pull it up. And you won't be able to see it, but I have a lovely little inked image. And what I like to do, because I'm nesting one inside the other, I'm going to go ahead and add my white embossing powder and emboss this before I add my other image. On black paper, I find it really hard to see, and I don't want to just have my embossing powder here without being embossed, heated up, because then I don't want to squish it and move it because I'm going to use the Stamp-A-Majig. Okay, so there we go. We've got that started, and our next piece is to add our sentiment. And for that, I'm going to just set this aside. I am going to use my Stamp-A-Majig, both pieces of it. And then what I'm going to do, because I need to be able to see this onto a dark paper, is I am going to just use a tiny bit of StazOn onto my stamp so that when I make my, when I have my image, I'll be able to see it. And you'll see what I mean in just a second, because I'm transferring white ink onto my image sheet. And now, if you look, you can see that I can see through into the black. So the white just gives me enough contrast that I can look at this again. I can line it up, place my Stamp-A-Majig. Now, before I use my stamp again, however, I do need to clean the white ink off and add some Versamark again. And I've got my imaging sheet. I have everything placed where I want it. I'm going to remove that and stamp down. And I'm going to add my embossing powder. Okay, so we're going to heat this up again. All right, so here comes the fun part. It's kind of magical. Now, in order to turn this right here into this, we need to do a little bit more work. So I'm going to pull over my white StazOn, and I'm just going to tap the edge of a sponge into it, and very, very lightly I'm going to start adding some white ink. Very lightly. Just in a few places. Not too many. Just in a few. I certainly don't want it everywhere, but I do want it around so that it looks like, we've been using this chalkboard and erasing on it. You can see I've added just a few little patches. I like to make it somewhat balanced though, so I'm going to add a little bit more down here. Hope you can see that. Can you see where I've added some white in here? And you can add more later, so don't worry about that. Now the next thing that I do want to do is just provide a tiny bit of shadowing and depth to this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Stamp-A-Majig with the image again, and I'm first going to line up the image onto the paper over the top of the image that I have embossed, and then I'm just going to move it down a tiny bit, just enough so that it has a bit of a shadow, and I'm going to stamp this again, only this time I'm going to stamp it with white StazOn. And what I'll do is use my heat tool to just get that, just blast that a little bit Actually, with the Stays On, you don't really need it. With the craft white ink, you will. I don't think I'm done with my whiteness over here. I think I want to have some in the corners and down below. The next step, though, is to add some lines. I've done that on this one, and this is so easy to do. What I've done is I have a T-square, which really helps me when I need to line things up. I'm not a big liner upper, but for something like this where I want a straight line, I love my T-square. And a white colored pencil or a watercolor pencil, Stampin' Up's watercolor pencil. We're just going to make some white lines. Key to doing this and making it look like chalkboard art is to get it straight, but also to stop. So I'm going to start here, but I'm going to stop when I get to my white here. I'm going to skip over it and continue on. So I'm going to start here, stop, continue on. I'm just going to add these, and because I put this more toward the top, I'm going to add a couple of them just for some added interest and a little balance for the bottom of the card. Let's do this, and again we're going to stop right at the embossed part and continue on after that. Okay, so there we go. So the last thing I want to do is mount this onto my card base, and I've used Raspberry Ripple for my color. I just love this color, and I'm just going to add my adhesive along the back, center it, and you're all set. And there we go. There is Chalkboard Technique. So here are some examples, and I hope you try this technique at home. It's really fun, not hard to do, a few steps, but the end result is really worth it. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you'll check out more projects and inspiration and ideas on my website, dianestance.com. While you're there, sign up for my newsletter so you don't miss out on any of the important news and more exclusive projects just for you. Thanks for joining me today. Bye-bye.